It started with a message I almost didn't open. I was lounging on the couch, the hum of rain against the windows wrapping the room in a soothing rhythm. My phone buzzed with a Facebook notification, a friend request from someone named Dino Arman. The name struck a distant, weird chord in my memory. I clicked his profile. His face was older, gaunter, a bit too intense, but it was him, Dino, from high school, my childhood friend. I hadn't thought of him in years. Back then, we were inseparable for a short time, the kind of bond kids have when they both feel invisible to the rest of the world. But even in those days, something about Dino made people uncomfortable. He'd stare too long, whisper things no one understood. Teachers used to say he was just different. Curious, I accepted his request. Within minutes, he messaged, "Hey, wow, it's really you. Been thinking about you a lot lately." I hesitated before replying. Something in his tone felt off, a little too familiar, like no time had passed at all. But I responded politely, a short, "Hey, long time, how are you?" That night, I couldn't shake the unease. Maybe it was the way he messaged again 2 minutes later. Then again. A steady stream, like he'd been waiting for years just to speak. "You remember that time under the bleachers, right? You used to tell me your secrets. I still remember them all. You said we'd always be close. You promised. I hadn't said that, had I?" My stomach churned. I left the messages on read and locked my phone. It was probably nothing. Nostalgia and loneliness mixed with weird timing. Maybe he was just awkward. But the next morning, I found another message. This time, it had a photo of me. Not from high school. No, this was recent. From the coffee shop I went to last week. I was sitting at the window, drinking my latte. My back was to the street. The photo had been taken from outside. Still look exactly the same. My blood ran cold. I slammed my phone down, heart racing. What was this? A prank? Some horrible mistake? But deep down, I knew. Dino had found me. And this time, he wasn't going to leave quietly. I didn't respond. I couldn't. I deleted the app from my phone, turned off notifications, and tried to move on like it hadn't happened. But something shifted inside me after seeing that photo. For the first time in a while, I was scared to be alone. For the next few days, I kept glancing over my shoulder. At the grocery store, on the street, even in the lobby of my apartment building. I told myself I was being paranoid. But that photo, that single, quiet image, stuck in my brain like a splinter. Then one night, I came home late from work. The building was quiet, the hallway lights flickering like always. As I approached my apartment door, I noticed something. The welcome mat was off-center. I never moved it. Ever. Heart pounding, I reached for the doorknob. Unlocked. That stopped me cold. I always locked it. Always. I forced myself inside, phone flashlight in hand. The apartment looked the same. Untouched, but I felt watched. I checked everything, windows, closets, even under the bed like I was a kid again. Nothing. No sign of entry. No broken locks. No evidence. But on the kitchen counter, there was a small paper note, folded neatly, in tiny, neat handwriting. "I still remember where you keep the spare key." I dropped it and backed away like it had burned me. I changed the locks the next morning. I didn't call the police. I should have. But what could I say? That an old friend I hadn't seen in over a decade might be stalking me, maybe broke into my home and left without taking anything? It sounded insane. No forced entry, no fingerprints, nothing to report. Still, I had a locksmith change everything. Door, windows, even the mailbox. I added a chain lock, bought a small camera to place near the entrance. I thought maybe that would help me sleep again. But that same night, I heard a sound at 3:13 a.m. A slow, careful tap on my window. My second-story window. I froze in bed. I live alone. No trees, no balcony, just empty air and brick wall beneath that window. I didn't check. I didn't breathe. When I gathered enough courage to look hours later, nothing was there. But on the windowsill inside sat a perfectly round coin, an old arcade token. I hadn't seen one of those in 15 years. Back then, Dino and I used to sneak out to the arcade 2 blocks from school. He used to hoard those tokens. He'd say, "Keep one with you, it means you're part of the game." And now, one was in my home. The message was clear. Dino had never stopped playing. I didn't sleep the rest of that night. The token stayed on the windowsill like a threat. I didn't touch it. I stared at it until the sun rose and made me feel a little less like prey. But I knew it meant one thing. He had been in my apartment again. This wasn't just a game anymore. It was a hunt. I called in sick to work and spent the morning changing passwords, resetting privacy settings, locking down every trace of myself online. I called my landlord to ask about building security footage, but he was old, grumpy, and waved me off. Cameras haven't worked in months. Of course they hadn't. I started sleeping with a knife under my pillow, just in case. I didn't even tell anyone. What could I say? I had no proof, no witnesses, only a sickening feeling growing in my gut. By Thursday, the camera I'd bought finally arrived. I set it up near the entryway, pointing at the front door. It gave me some small comfort, until I checked the footage the next morning. Nothing unusual until 2:44 a.m. The screen showed total darkness for a moment, then movement. Someone had crouched in front of the camera, close enough to trigger it, but stayed completely out of frame. They knew where it was. The footage only showed a flicker of something, the edge of a sleeve, pale fingers reaching just far enough to leave something beneath the camera lens. I sprinted to the door. There, taped with a single strip of masking tape to the bottom of the doorframe, was a Polaroid photo. I didn't want to look at it, but I did. It was me, sleeping, taken from the foot of my bed. My skin turned to ice. I screamed, not even because I was scared anymore, but because I realized something terrifying. I didn't hear him come in. I didn't hear him leave. He'd been inside, while I slept, inches from me, watching. I called the police this time. They came, wrote a report, looked around, and left with the same vague advice. Change your locks. Stay with a friend. Call us if anything escalates. Escalates? He was in my bedroom. They treated me like I was paranoid. Maybe it was someone else, they said. Maybe it's a prank. But I knew. Dino was playing with me, and no one else seemed to believe it. That night, I left, packed a duffel bag, and went to stay with my cousin across town. She believed me. She didn't say much, just made me tea, gave me a blanket, and told me to rest. I slept a little better. Until 5:19 a.m., when my phone buzzed with a new message from a number I didn't recognize. It's not as fun when you cheat. There was an attachment, a video. I opened it with shaking hands. It was my cousin's living room, from outside the window, from the same angle I had watched TV just hours earlier. He had followed me. He knew where I went. And now I realized with sinking horror, Dino didn't want to kill me. Not yet. He wanted to break me first. I didn't go outside for 2 days. My cousin insisted we report everything again, this time more aggressively. We went to the station together, showed them the Polaroid, the video, the messages. I watched the officer's face shift from mild disinterest to something harder when he saw the footage. Still, they had no name. Dino wasn't in the video. The number was untraceable. The photo couldn't be dated. They offered to put a patrol near my cousin's house for a few nights, but that was it. No arrest. No real protection. That night, I lay awake with every light on. I kept wondering, how had he found me again? After all these years, what was the trigger? Then I remembered something. A reunion. 3 months ago, I had gone to our high school's 10-year reunion. I almost didn't go, but at the last minute, I'd shown up for an hour, just long enough to make awkward conversation and leave. I hadn't seen Dino there. At least, I didn't think I had. But someone had taken a group photo near the end. It was posted in the alumni group. I went back through the post. Hundreds of faces blurred by time and drink. But then I saw him. In the back, half hidden behind a doorway, his face just barely turned toward the camera. But the stare was unmistakable. Dino had been there. He must have followed me home that night. Quiet, invisible. I started searching for more. Anything I could find on him. His profile was gone now. Deleted. I couldn't even find his name in public records. But then I found a thread, a comment buried deep under an old classmate's post from a year ago. Remember Dino Arman? What a freak. Still gives me nightmares. Someone else replied, Didn't he get kicked out sophomore year? I heard he got arrested for stalking some girl from another school. I stared at the screen. None of us had ever talked about it, not really. Just whispers, rumors. He had disappeared one day and never come back. And apparently, it wasn't the first time he'd done this. He had practiced on someone else. Suddenly, everything felt more calculated. This wasn't obsession. This wasn't nostalgia. This was a pattern. The next day, I went to our old school and talked to a retired teacher who still helped in the office. I told her I was looking into something from the past, for closure. She remembered Dino. Her voice got low, cautious. I shouldn't say much, but he scared people, she told me. Not just kids, adults too. He always had this control over girls, made them feel guilty for not being close to him. He'd corner them after class. One time, he got caught in the girls' locker room. I asked why nothing had been done. She hesitated. His family pulled him out before the school could act. Then they moved away. We never heard from him again. Until now. That night, I got a package. No name, no return address. Just a small box. Inside was a VHS tape and a sticky note. Let's watch our favorite movie again. I knew what it was before I played it. Back in high school, we'd watched horror movies together after school in his garage. He always picked the weirdest, grainiest ones, low-budget slasher films that no one else had ever heard of. I didn't want to watch it, but I had to. I borrowed an old player and pressed play. It wasn't a horror movie. It was footage of me, from high school, from recent weeks, from now. Clips stitched together like a film reel, walking to class, laughing with friends, eating alone at a cafe, sleeping, reading, crying, all silently watched, stitched into a grotesque timeline of my life. At the end, text faded onto the screen. This isn't over. You still owe me. I smashed the tape, but I couldn't smash the feeling in my chest, the sinking realization that Dino didn't want to hurt me randomly. He believed I belonged to him, and he was getting closer. I wasn't going to run anymore. I was terrified, yes, but something had changed. Dino wanted me afraid, paralyzed, like a puppet in the twisted movie he'd made. But fear has a way of hardening, calcifying into something stronger. I made a list of everything I knew. Dates, times, less evidence. Then I called a private investigator. His name was Rizal, ex-police, quiet and sharp-eyed. I showed him the Polaroid, the tape, the videos. At first, he assumed it was some unstable stalker, but as I laid out Dino's messages, the pictures, and the footage, his face tightened. This guy's dangerous, he said. He's not just obsessed. He's rehearsed this. He's done it before. I told him about the reunion, the teacher, the rumors. He took notes and started digging. Said he'd get back to me in a few days. Meanwhile, I took steps. Installed new cameras in my apartment, changed my number, moved in temporarily with my cousin's friend. Someone Dino didn't know, someone off-grid. But even there, he found me. One night, I came back from a walk to find a photo taped to the front door. A photo of me, just 10 minutes earlier, walking that very same route. The message scribbled across it. You keep hiding, but I always find you. This is forever. I broke down, not just from fear, but rage. I wasn't going to let him own me. The next day, Rizal called. I found him. My heart dropped. He traced Dino through an old online alias linked to a forum about surveillance tech. Dino had been posting anonymously for years, asking for advice on motion detectors, hiding cameras, even faking phone numbers. He went by Null Replica. Creepy, robotic, but unmistakably him. Rizal found an address in a rundown neighborhood a few towns away. A house paid in cash, no utility accounts in his name. But someone lived there. We drove there together. It was a small, rotting one-story house with boarded windows and overgrown weeds swallowing the mailbox. Rizal parked across the street with binoculars. I stayed low in the passenger seat, heart pounding. Then I saw him. Dino. He stepped outside barefoot, holding a notebook. His face had sunk in even further since the reunion. He looked like he hadn't slept in weeks. But he smiled, a twitchy, too wide smile, as he stood in the yard staring at the sky. Is that him? Rizal asked. I nodded. I couldn't speak. Rizal told me to stay put and got out. He didn't confront him, just circled the block, took photos, marked security weaknesses, license plates, everything. We filed a full report with the police that night. With Rizal's evidence and Dino's online activity, the officer took it more seriously. They launched an official investigation. A protection order was filed. But I knew that wouldn't stop him. That night, Dino sent one last message. I see what you're doing. You're trying to ruin everything. You've changed. You used to be kind. You used to understand me. Then, you won't stop me. We started this together. We end it together. It was the first time I realized he didn't just want me back. He wanted to erase the life I built without him. The message chilled me, not just because of the words, but because of the truth in them. Dino didn't see what he was doing as stalking. In his mind, we were still friends, still 12 years old under the bleachers, whispering secrets. He thought our friendship had frozen in time, like I belonged to him permanently, as if nothing and no one else had mattered after that. But the woman I was now, the life I'd built, that wasn't his to understand, and I wasn't his to claim. Rizal called the next morning. They're going in. A joint task force, using the evidence we gathered, the surveillance obsession, threats, unlawful entry, and the cache of disturbing materials, had finally gotten a warrant. They raided Dino's home just after sunrise. What they found was worse than either of us had imagined. Inside the house, the windows were all blacked out. Dozens of old monitors lined the living room wall, connected to hard drives full of years' worth of footage, not just of me, but other women too. Footage from different times, different cities. On a shelf near his bed, they found a shrine. Photos of me, some from high school, others clearly taken without my knowledge in the years after. Notes, drawings, Polaroids. Even the toy necklace I thought I'd lost when I was 16. He had kept it. But most disturbing were the scripts, hundreds of handwritten pages in small, neat print, imagined conversations between us, fake text threads. Journals written as me, describing how much I missed him and regretted everything. He'd created a whole alternate life where we were still best friends, where I needed him. They arrested him without incident. He didn't resist. He smiled the whole time. When they asked him why he did it, he reportedly said, "She remembered. She came back to me. It was only a matter of time." The court process was slow, painful. I had to give statements, hand over evidence. But in the end, Dino was charged with multiple counts of unlawful surveillance, stalking, and criminal trespassing, and they had more than enough to secure a long-term sentence. He was declared mentally unstable. He's now institutionalized under heavy observation. He's not allowed access to the internet, to visitors, or to anything that connects him to the outside world, including me. It took me a long time to feel safe again. I moved apartments, changed jobs, cut my hair. For months, I flinched at the sound of footsteps behind me, triple-checked every lock, and couldn't sleep unless every light was on. But slowly, life returned. Therapy helped. So did time. I learned that fear doesn't have to stay permanent. That trauma loses its grip if you don't let it define your future. One rainy afternoon, nearly a year later, I stood at a cafe window with my coffee in hand, watching people pass by. For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel watched. I felt free. And in my pocket, I carried the old arcade token Dino once gave me. Not because I wanted to remember him, but because it reminded me that I survived him. His game is over, and I won.